test study, get it ready, especially if you want to take it on the Fort Hays campus. If some of you are from areas like Wichita, Salina, Colorado, and you're going to go back and take it sometime maybe over like winter break, I still would schedule, because again, those testing centers can have between 5 to 10 just carols, and you don't want to get all prepped up in 30 days before you take it, and they're like, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go 45 more miles this way to take it. So again, get a date set and start early, and then I think that also helps kind of spur you along in the process. You do need a photo ID, and they do allow you these 10-minute breaks, as I alluded to up here. You get 10-minute breaks in between these areas, these 30-minute sessions. So they are very small. As far as brain breaks, you get a 10-minute brain break, which is kind of nice for getting yourself reset essentially for the next area. You can take in water and snacks, but they remain in that locker, and then you can go to them after that as well, if you're a person that needs brain food, etc. So other things, you cannot take in books, your cell phone, wallet, a calculator can be in your locker, and it has to stay in your locker until you go to the quantitative section, and they'll ask you to get it from your locker. And then you can have scratch paper, but all the testing centers I've ever been to, they provide just a box of pencils that you pick up, and then the scratch paper as well. And like I said, I took the quantitative before you could use calculators, so my scratch paper was quite lengthy and messy. So again, things to think of. Going to that computerized section, it's going to make a difference depending on how you prepped. One of the things I have students ask me, even in undergrad, with regard to class assessments, is the idea of navigating back and forth in a section. That's possible, because a lot of times you're reading and something you read cued you into a question three back, and you're like, oh my gosh, that clicked in my brain, and now I remember the answer, and you can go back. Some of these early tests did not allow, it was very linear. You just got going and there was no going backwards. So I think that's kind of a nice thing that ETS changed. If a lot of you are not good test takers, you tend to drag your feet because you question yourself. Again, remember, some of these tests are only 30-minute segments, and you're given 45 questions. So that's why that simulation is important. Set your cell phone for 30 minutes, go take the practice exam, and if you feel like you were rushing, then you're going to have to pick it up. I mean, it's better to answer questions than leave questions blank as well. Okay, those completions are important in the GRE, which a lot of people don't know that. Okay.
You were saying that you don't have to bring a calculator. Is it
No, you need to bring your calculator. The only time you can take it in is during the quantitative section.
Okay.
Yeah, because theoretically you could program a calculator to tell you anything, and you just open up a notes section and have all the vocabulary there. I mean, people are savvy. Yeah, you've seen it all on Instagram, folks. I mean, there's lots of ways to cheat. So that's why they're very limiting on what you can bring in. But yes, it's only the quantitative. You bring your calculator, it remains in your locker, and then they allow you to get it. Okay, question. So a lot of these come down to this idea of logic and how do we make choices. So one of the things I looked up on GRE is how do I make good choices on basically multiple choice or selection. And on selection it says you should rule out what you know is not consequential, like what you're just absolutely think this cannot be right. So they say to pick out the answer that you can rule out. The idea that you can come back is advantageous. Although I tend to be the person who spends so much time and then I have to get to number 20 and then back up to number 3 because I needed to go back to that one, okay? One of the things I find is I get so enveloped in the test, I don't know if any of you do this, that you're like, I don't even remember what number. I remember there's a number, and then you get upset because you're like, I have to go fill this one out. Just something as simple as making a note on your scratch pad, numbers 3, 7, and 10. I was clueless. Then you can come back to that. I know that sounds so simple, but when you're in the heat of it and you have 30 minutes for 45 questions, you're just trying to knock it out. And you need little things that can help you remember how to get back to the ones you're really unsure of, okay? So one of the things I talk about in on the GRE is actually multiple choice questions. So they say to rule out what you know is not true. So I think that's pretty easy to do in a lot of cases. On the logic part, it's not. That's the part that I really struggled with, was the logic part, which as you start studying that, you'll see there's definitely some tips and tricks for the logic section. Are they going to have anybody come in and talk about the logic section?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Jean Rice is
Jean
talking
Rice,
about
okay.
that next
Very good.
week.
He'll be great at that. So that's one thing. If you do the GRE prep, make sure you come to Dr. Rice's segment on that quantitative section, or the qualitative section on the writing, because your writing and that logic is a little bit tricky. And then it says practicing is important, as I just said. I've said this multiple times. And then guessing is actually better than leaving it unanswered. So completion is important on the GRE. So how tests essentially work is a lot of these tests that you have to take. For example, let's just say I'm going to go take my RN boards. And so I'm a registered nurse and I need these boards, so I'm qualified in my state. The minimum number of questions it will give you is 75. It will go up to 250. So as you start answering correctly, it gives you less questions. So if I walk out of my RN exam and I had 80 questions, I have a pretty good indicator I did pretty well. If I walk out and I answer 225, that doesn't mean I did poorly, it just means I needed more chances. So, you know, in the small end, you know you did pretty well. So the GRE can be kind of like that as well as their scoring. I'm really weird about some of the quantitative sections of quantitative, meaning how do they score all this? And so I've done a little bit of research in that, and one of the answers I found to be interesting is that you're better off answering than just leaving it blank, which I think is interesting. So the number of completed answers helps you in their scoring measurements and how they come up with this score, essentially. So answering is better than blank, remember that, because I would tend to just leave things blank. Remember, that would be when you'd want to go back at the end and answer to the best of your ability, but definitely guessing is better than blank, which goes against every principle that most of us are taught. But this is, again, this is GRE. So again, a couple of the things I want to reiterate. Paper and pencil versus computerized practice. Make sure when you use that book, you're also using a computerized version as well. The book is great. It gets you into the information. It's prepping you to be able to take some of the online assessments, but there's tons of online things as well. And I'll show you a couple that I found that I thought were kind of interesting. Know your strengths and weaknesses. Know that you're quantitatively driven. That's not a problem. Know that I'm not a great writer, and so I really need to concentrate on that area. So do a self-analysis. Where am I going to be strong? Where am I going to be weak? We all have our gifts, but we all have our deficiencies as well. Consider an app. So one of the things I did, of course, I Googled, what is the best app? And this was actually a 2016 report, and as it would be, the GRE app is actually the best one. That actually makes sense. Okay, so, but there's lots of different ones. So I just pulled this up. There's the Arcadia Prep. If you have your smartphone, you can put in GRE. I think last year I just looked up GRE vocab because I would want the quick one that you file through just for vocab. I don't want to have to enter into an app and then figure out that I need to go to quantitative or verbal. I just want to go straight to a verbal app and flip, flip, flip. So you could have several of these. This is a pretty minimum input cost. I think the one that's actually made by GRE is $4.99. There's expansion packs, but I'm not sure I get an expansion pack on a mobile device. If I was going to pay for an expansion pack, I'd do it on my laptop where I could actually get those simulated assessments. So ETS packages these. You get 2 analytical writing topics plus 25 of each verbal and quantitative for $4.99. If you want to add on and you get extra verbal, extra quantitative, this is where you and your friend may say, hey, let's split the $19.99, let's do $10 each. Let's see what we get for $10 each, and then maybe we both need to invest another, $19.99. But just split it and see what you think. There's no reason for everyone in here to go get a $19.99 expansion pack. I mean, the 3 of you could easily just split this, even set together and take it, and see what you're getting for your money. There's lots of simulated assessments, but I'm pretty sure ETS, who makes the exam, would be the best simulation to take. And you can buy their simulated assessments. I know they usually give you 2 or 3 for free, maybe that Dakota was talking about that. They give you the free ones, but if you're not getting the outcome, i.e. the answer, then it probably doesn't help you that much because you're not going to learn from your mistakes, okay? I had a really good friend last year that was taking the GRE and he took a ton of these example ones, and a lot of it was learning from your mistakes. And that's another thing we know in test taking from a research base is when you go and you take a test and you answer something incorrectly, did you go out and figure out why you were incorrect and correct that, or understand why you were correct? So as you're taking these exams, find out why you answered something incorrectly or where you were wrong, because most of the time, those are going to come back up again. If you've ever taken 3 to 4 practice exams on any of these types of systems, you're going to start seeing the same questions again and again. Those are probably pretty important. okay? But I know the way he passed it was he took a practice exam almost every day for about 3 or 4 days straight. For a week, he did nothing but barricade himself right over here in the library, in a room, and he took a practice exam every day for several days in a row. And that's, you know, and obviously studied from the book and used apps and stuff like that, but that's how he did, so well. And he was pretty math gifted. He was a foreign language learner from a different country, and so he had to really stress the verbal part. That's where he stressed himself, so he had to stress that as a non-English speaking individual. So something to think about. So what I did simply here, just to let you know, I literally put in top GRE apps, and it came up with the top 2016 ranked apps. So this is something to consider, okay? Obviously, I would start with the GRE, and then also, depending on what your mobile device is, you know, they have a rating system. Look for the ones that are 4 and 5 stars, and those are pretty decent. I hate to say it, but when it's come to test taking software, most of the ones you're going to pay between $2.99 and $4.99 for. Have one of you do that and put it on your phone, because I've paid for apps, paid $2.99, and they've been highly rated, and I'm like, this is crap. I would never use this. So one of you do it as a test, and then if it's great, all of you load it up and use that. Again, use your time wisely when you're going into a prep situation. Okay, another person who's linked up with GRE, which is so smart, is Khan Academy. So you start making videos in your home office on how to teach high school kids to do math, and all of a sudden you're this Khan Academy guy who's worth billions of dollars. This is very smart, and he has a ton on Dakota, the quantitative stuff, and there's a lot out there. Okay, so the Khan Academy videos are very, very good. And again, it's qualified individuals teaching you. If you've ever done anything on Khan, I think they're pretty legit. And I think they have a good thing going. I think that's obviously an
And they
indicator
have
of their
that
success.
on Roku also.
Okay. Okay.
So
The last one I want to point out is we can't leave out YouTube. And I thought I brought this up, and I think it actually linked me back to Khan. YouTube has a host of video prep, and most of those are about an hour long, but there's one for verbal, there's one for quantitative. I think it's called, let's just look it up. Quick search here. Anybody else have any tips, tricks, or insights when it comes to GRE prep that they've heard of that you want to share that we don't have to pay for? Or?
I thought they had some good free math videos for GRE on there. I was
Okay.
looking at one the other day. Yeah.
Oh, here, there's one from last year. If you miss any of these, those are still loaded from last year as well. So those are setting up there. I don't see what I'm specifically looking for. It was a company. This guy has about 12 years of, okay, so this was their channel, the Grocket channel. And they have every assessment that you can think of, the GMAT, the SAT.
Hi there, and welcome to
So this is the guy. So here he has about an hour session just on the verbal. So that may be something, if you're a person who needs the visual, you need the human contact type feeling, this may be a good place to start. Okay, you again have to really do a self-analysis and how this works for you and what's going to work best for you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd say everybody should probably look at the essay examples, like
Okay.
on Google, because it'll give you a good idea of kind of what they want.
Yes, okay, so what Dakota is saying is on that GRE prep site, they actually give you examples of what you can expect on the written part, and I believe that's what Dr. Rice talks about, and he has examples that you can look through, but they do tell you what are the difference between what I'll experience, and when I say what I'll experience is remember just to be right on point is it'll first ask you to state and support your opinion on an issue, so you'll be given an issue, and you have to state and support an issue. So again, you need to think about how do you build an argument for this, and how do I support it. And the other one asks you to evaluate an argument. So evaluating an argument is knowing how to evaluate both sides and then making a stand on one of those sides. So those two things have specific things that you would need to remember to step through so you hit all your points that the writers are going to be grading you on. Okay, and then the written part, the analytical part is graded externally. So you would get an initial exam score, a basically ballpark, but you don't get your full exam score until that analytical section is graded. They do have a computerized grading system, but it is also done with a person now. I mean, still, there's nothing that's equated for a person's grading. else that any of you've heard, somebody before you has taken it, things that have worked for them, things they've used? Dakota, when you took yours, where did you take yours, here on campus, or, and then how many spots do they actually have for testing, like the testing carols?
It looked like a lot,
Okay.
actually.
I wonder if they've expanded. I think within the last couple of years, I think they've had to realize that a lot more people are taking standardized assessments on the campus.
12.
Okay. I thought it was between 8 and 10, so 12 would be good. So again, you have to consider that it's not just people taking the GRE. There's people taking the DAT for grad school. There's people taking the GMAT. There's people from the School of Ed that have to take 2 entrance exams, 3 entrance exams, plus a post exam when they get out. So, and that's only 12 spots. So again, go look to see when the GRE is being given, what's your cutoff. Okay, so not to be, let's just be really, really honest. Another thing you need to think of is, when is my program needing me to actually be in? When do I need this score to get into my program? So if it's, let's just say December, you don't want to be taking it in November, because if for whatever reason you have to retake it or retake a section, you don't want to be left with going, oh my gosh, like I have 30 days. That's like some serious stress you're putting on yourself unnecessarily. So take it early. It's like the ACT. Why do you think they give it to you your junior year? Well, that gives you like 2 years to really study, figure out what's on it. It gives you 1 year to say, this is what's on it. For those people who, you know, your parents didn't pull you aside and say, okay, you're going to take the ACT in a couple weeks. Here's how to prepare. Here's what to do. My parents were college students, but they didn't educate me and help me and support me that way, like I would probably be my daughter, okay? So the first time I took the ACT, it was really to go, oh, this is what this is about. The GRE shouldn't be that for you, but it should be done far enough in advance to where if something does happen, you have plenty of time to retake it and you're not stressing and saying, my cutoff date is January 1, and you're trying to retake it on December 13th or something. You don't want to get yourself into that position. So again, think about the timing issue and think about how often do they give it. Look on the thing. It'll tell you how many times can I take it, and look to make sure you have a cushion there. Yes?
I think you can take it every 23 days,
Mhm.
and it takes like 5 to 6 weeks to get the official score.
About once a month, but if you have to wait 5 or 6 weeks, which usually it's not that long, but yes, their website does say more than a month. So if you could only take it every 23 days, and then you're waiting 5 or 6 weeks, then you really have to account for more of a 6 to 8 week time span to allow yourself if you had to retake it. Again, I don't want to think negatively, but we're all human beings, and people don't always pass. If that was the case, the BTS probably wouldn't still be in business, because everybody would just pass. Yeah, people fail. I mean, this is part of life, okay? So again, plan ahead. A lot of this is things that have nothing to do with the content, just the psychology of test taking, and then prep and planning for the actual assessment. That's a good point to be made. Anyone else with regard to questions that you might have or concerns? Do you kind of have an idea of where you think you'll be more strong and where your weak areas might be at this point when you get in? Where you might struggle? Where you're all rock stars and you're like, worry about that? Anything kind of scare you about the sections?
Qualitative.
The quantitative, that's the first thing that freaks me out. And then I really didn't think about it. The logic section can be a little tricky. So you really have to study how to perform at logic. There's no way to get around it, and most of us aren't logical individuals when it comes to the logic of these problems. You have to study how to basically maneuver a logic problem. And the first ones you do, you're like, knock it out of the park. Well, they just keep getting harder. And a lot of that is just practice and studying and understand how they wrote the exam. And then I can tell you, I keep going back to this, you have to look to see what you've missed, because that's probably going to come back up again. You have to look to see what you missed. So, anything else for the greater cause?
Are all of the tests now computerized? Or
They are. Yeah, because I was like, oh, I wonder if you can still take a written exam. So you would get like an initial score, but you wouldn't get that analytical writing section.